As I've listened to the stories of thousands of women of all ages, in all kinds of stages, through the years, I've kept their stories locked in the vault of my heart. I feel as if they've been walking around with me all through these years. They've bothered me. They've prodded me. And sometimes kept me up at night. Ultimately, they've increased my passion to reframe and reimagine the powerful positions of mother and matriarch within the family system. I'm a problem solver, so I set out to find a way to perhaps change the trajectory of this silent and sad scenario about a dynamic yet untapped source of potential and purpose sitting in our homes and churches. It is time to come to the table, Heartlifters, and unleash the power of maternal presence into the world. Welcome to Mothering for the Ages, our 2025 theme here on today's Heartlift. I'm Janell. I am your guide here on this Heartlifting journey. I invite you to grab a pen, a journal, and a cup of something really delicious. May today's conversation give you clarity, courage, and a revived sense of camaraderie. You see, you're not on this journey alone. We are unified as Heartlifters and committed to bringing change into the world, one heart at a time. I'm so happy to have Leslie Means here with us today to talk about her brand new book, So God Made a Grandma. Yes, you knew I had to have her. Caring, faithful, creative, devoted, wise, generous, resilient, just like you. We don't have to be a grandmother to really glean from these essays that Leslie has put together in this beautiful book. As we are focusing this year on just being a maternal presence, on mothering those in our spheres of influence, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a grandma or even be a mother, a mama. Because I feel in my deepest part of my spirit that this is a time in our history, especially in our culture today, where we need the maternal presence. We'll be talking about it all year. I believe that means nurturing and all of these beautiful qualities that Leslie is talking about in this book. Caring, faithful, creative, devoted, wise, generous, resilient. Yes, just like we are Heartlifters. And when we are wholehearted, emotionally whole, mentally strong, and spiritually vital, we walk into our spheres of influence with a luminous presence. I choose that word luminous on purpose because we embody God, right? The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And all throughout the teachings of Jesus, he is telling us we are light. We are light. We are not to hide our light under a bushel. We are the light of the world. And it is our privilege and our honor to be this light and to point others to our one true light, who is Jesus himself. So let's welcome Leslie to the show and enjoy this conversation about becoming this maternal presence in the world. Leslie, thank you so much for being here. I have bragged about you already and introduced the community to the fine work of your hands. It reminds me of Proverbs 31 and how her hands were filled with the law of kindness in her mouth. And you just exude a woman who seems to be doing life well, and I'm grateful for that. But we just welcome you here as a luminary in our lives. Thank you.
This is an honor. This is going to be fun. I already know.
Great. So many questions. So exciting. You have
Also,
this.
Can I just say, it's like such a gift to be introduced. You're like, oh, you sound so amazing. But really, I'm a hot mess behind the scenes. But thank you. Thank you.
I know. Aren't we all? I know. We're so Instagram pretty, aren't we?
I know it.
I always want to, like, when I put something up on Instagram, go, well, do you know the fight that happened 5 minutes before?
Mhm. Always.
I know, but I am very new in the grandma world, and it is everything everyone promised me. Everyone. It's too much. It's just over the moon. Even today, just trying to prepare. I have two granddaughters in Belgium, and so they're 6 hours ahead. And so typically they call in about the 4 o'clock hour, that hour of the day that
Uh-huh.
an almost 3-year-old and 1-year-old are like, mom's had
Hard.
enough. Mom's got a cold, and so she calls Nona because I'm called Nona by them. And just to get her through that hour. And so today they FaceTime in, and I can hear the almost 3-year-old in the back going, no, Nona, no, Nona, no. She was really having a mood today, like
I
really,
didn't want to
like
today.
not today, not Nona day, not Nona. And so I go, that's fine. But I just thought, of course, my daughter is like, help. And I said, Elena Rose, I have a new book. Would you like to read it? And she pokes her head in there. And then she pokes it back out. And I'm like, this is just the best.
I love that.
Now, you yourself are not a grandma yet,
No.
but you have this incredible platform, Her View from Home. I
Mhm.
know, it's so pretty.
So is it pretty?
I
You
don't
have it,
have it
right?
yet. I have So God Made a Mom, but I don't have that one, yet because it's coming out, but you can pre-order it. You can pre-order it. It's so lovely, and it matches the other one, which now you have a set.
That was
So
planned, obviously. You see that,
obviously,
right?
I've had those sets planned, and then the publisher sells their company, and so I'm just always you got your set.
I got my set.
Yay. Company wasn't sold, nothing, you didn't lose it. You got it. That's in the author world, that's a big deal.
Mhm.
So Her View from Home, it's so incredible. It's so necessary, but why you have 3 children, and why did you decide to start Her View from Home, and where did you get that name? I'm so curious. Her
Mm.
View from
I
Home.
love this story.
Well,
Um,
I love you, so I
well,
want to hear.
I could go off on a tangent. I mean, I could talk forever.
Go.
So I've been trying to, in the 13 years now that I've been doing Herbie from home, I've been trying to shorten it up. So
I know.
let's see how this goes.
I know.
The whole thing I start with, this is such a God thing because you look at everything on paper and what I'm doing should have failed from the beginning.
Really? Really, Leslie? Why?
Yes, yes.
Curious.
And that's not a good, I know. I'm like, you're not supposed to say that about
No,
yourself,
you
Leslie,
are.
but
No, because
truly.
this is, I really, as I told you before we hit record, I want to know your journey.
Yeah.
So many women, especially in my community, in my age bracket, feel purposeless. We've
Mhm.
raised our kids. Mine are all over the place. Nobody lives near me. So there's such a void when you have raised your children and they're gone.
Mhm.
And yeah, you want that, yay, woohoo, empty nest, yay. But no, no, no. For me, it wasn't that. It was,
It's a shift, right? I mean, it
woo,
has to be. I,
woo. It was for me. I can't
uh,
speak for all,
yeah.
but I
Well, it has to
love
be
being a
because
mama.
it's change, right? All of
It's a
that.
change. Okay. So
Okay, so I am this old broadcast journalism girl. I used to do
you are,
TV. And I grew up on a farm in central Nebraska. And I grew up in the house that my great grandpa lived in, and then my grandpa, and then my dad, and then I grew up there, and now my sister and her
what?
they live there. Yeah, so we didn't have we didn't have money growing up like many farm families, especially in the 80s. Mom went to work to be a nurse
Oh,
and helped dad on the farm. I have three older sisters, so I
wow.
we didn't have a lot of money, but we had a lot of love, and I always felt loved. You don't know that until you're older of the love that you feel because mom and dad didn't really they weren't talkers like their daughters. They
Uh-huh.
grew up on a different generation where they didn't do that, but I
No.
never felt I'm in small town Nebraska, but I never felt small.
Small.
I don't know what it is because we didn't have internet yet,
Hmm.
obviously. And so I'm 43. So I'm in that Oregon Trail generation with the
Hmm.
video game where I feel like I lived all of my life through college and then we got the
Yes.
internet. So I had a
Right.
very different childhood than obviously my
Hmm.
kid. So I feel like, and then dad was a busy farmer, but he read to us every single night. He read always, he never missed it. I
Stop. Wait
remember
a
poker
minute.
guys. Yeah, yeah, I know.
Leslie, your
Huge.
dad read to you every night? All
Every
four girls?
Well, my two oldest sisters are 13 and 11 years older than me. So
Oh,
my sister
wow. Okay.
Lindsay and I, yes.
Hmm.
Every night I can remember poker guys being downstairs waiting to play, and he had to read to us first before he could go play poker. And now, and I love my dad. My dad, he's such a gift, but also I think it's my mother making my dad read. The older you get, you're
Yeah.
like, man, mom,
Hmm.
mom held that together. Like,
Yes.
just because she knew she wanted us to spend time with dad.
Oh my gosh.
So
That's,
anyway, all
mm,
of this, I'm like, I just felt like there was so much more to the world. And
mm.
I wrote stories from like third
Oh.
grade on. Mom got us a journal and I would go to the barn and I would talk to my cats. Like I just always
What?
had
What
this
a childhood.
I know, this storytelling vibe. And so I knew I would go. Actually, I remember specifically sitting on the end of my mother's bed being like, what do I want to do in college? Because
Hmm.
I hated math. And
Hmm.
she actually was the one who said, I think you should go into some kind of journalism. And so this is the long story
Love
short. I
that.
majored in broadcast journalism, met my husband in college.
Okay.
We moved to Houston, Texas, right after we got married after college, and he worked for his dream gig in the NBA. He was like working,
What?
shooting for the Rockets. Yeah, like dream gig. Here's his wife, though, and this is 2005, living in Houston, Texas, this like small town Nebraska girl. Couldn't find a job anywhere because in journalism, at that point, it's changed.
Mm.
But at that point, you
Hmm.
couldn't go to one of the major networks right
Yeah.
out of college. You had to
No,
work
no,
your
you had to start. Yeah.
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 So
I
I was
started in
driving.
that and then
Yes.
switched. Don't know why.
Oh,
Because
because it's a beast. So I was driving an hour and a half each way, morning and night to Beaumont, Texas for my first TV gig.
Beaumont. Wow.
They were so kind to this like naive Nebraska girl who had no idea, thought she knew what she was doing, but didn't. And then I was
You have
so,
the TV look, though. You know you do.
oh, thank you. I was so lonely, lonely, lonely,
Mm.
lonely. Because
Hmm.
again, there was no internet yet.
No.
I was writing every day. I was
Mm.
already writing and journaling every day
Wow.
to friends and family, but I was missing that. And so my
Mhm.
husband, bless him, he was like, we should go back to, I'm in Kearney, Nebraska is where I'm at. And there's a TV station here. And he said, we should go back there and work your way up. So he left his dream gig
What?
in Houston, came back to Nebraska, couldn't find a job, and had to rogue cornfields.
Are you serious?
Oh, so he's a good guy. We've been married
That's
for
why you
2 years.
say he's a very
Patient.
patient
Oh,
man
yes.
named Kyle.
Yes.
Kyle, when is your book coming out?
So I
Supporting
feel like
your woman.
I know. So I feel like all of these things led to where I'm at today because I had so much support and love along the way. And then I
Wow.
was in TV for a lot of years and we were only going to be here. In TV, you think you're going to be here for 2 years
Mhm.
and then you're going to move on to the next bigger market.
Bigger
But
market.
I got a chance in 2007 to start a talk show called NTV's Good Life.
I
And
love this.
it was supposed to be about the people and places of Nebraska, and it was amazing.
Oh,
At that time, I had two babies. My daughter was 2, and my other was 6 months old. And this schedule was much better than the early morning because I actually started anchoring there first before I did the talk show, and I was going in at 1 in the morning. I mean, it was just,
oh yeah.
and you
Wow.
make nothing, like you could nothing, like nothing, nothing.
Yeah.
And I felt this. I'm back. I'm at the talk show. The hours are better. My girls are really, really little. And I felt this calling that was like
Hmm.
we like I was supposed to be doing something else. I was. And
Hmm.
I couldn't explain it because on paper it looked amazing for TV. You actually had good hours. I was there from like what, 6 to 2, and the pay was fine.
Uh-huh.
It's always kind of garbage trash in
Yeah,
TV, but it
right.
was fine.
Right.
And
Till you hit
I,
the big market, right?
right, right. And I just felt something else. And I actually got a call one day
Hmm.
from a woman that I had known, because we would come in, we'd interview people all the time.
Sure.
She left a message on my work phone and said, "Hey, Leslie, if you have a minute, give me a call. I have something I want to talk to you about." And before I called her back, I thought, wouldn't that be cool if she had a job for me? I mean, no
Uh-huh.
joke. This sounds like I called her back
Is
and
that a whisper?
she
We're
had
going
a
to talk
job.
about whispers in a minute.
Yeah.
She had a job for you. What?
At the local chamber of commerce, which is business. And I jumped, I left. Here is this journalism girl leaving. I called the first day I started working for the chamber. I had to call my husband in tears because I didn't even know how to do an Excel spreadsheet. I'm like, what am I doing?
Somebody else does that for you in TV,
Right? I
right?
had no idea. But then it's just
What
God
was
is
that?
like, He's working it all together because of the chamber. I actually, when I was there, I loved the business aspect, but I really missed the media. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's when I started Her View from Home. I actually remember
Okay.
sitting around in my kitchen thinking about the title for weeks because I felt like
Yeah.
it was going to be big.
Did you?
God does this. And then I actually won a grant through the Chamber of Commerce, a $10,000 grant, which helped get everything off because I had
What?
money. And then I also was going like business to business, asking these advertisers that I knew through TV if they would advertise on the website, and they did. And
Leslie.
I haven't told this story in a long time,
No,
but
it's
thank you
so
for being patient.
profound.
I am just, it is God's
Huh.
hand in it over and over and over again. So
Right.
I was working at the chamber, working on Herview, and it was about 4 years in, and the website it was supposed
So
to
was
start.
that would be the beginning of blogging?
It really was. It was 2012 is
Yeah.
when it started, and it was fine. It was enough to pay writers a little bit, but it wasn't, really making
Mm-hmm.
much money at all. And there actually came a time, year four, 2016, that summer, that my husband and I, we like went out to dinner, and he said, "This is, we have to decide what you're going to do. You need to be all in or not." And so I went all in. And
Wow.
about that time also is when it's like I had like a month. I had like a month left of income coming in. And if
Wow.
it didn't work, we would shut it down.
Yeah.
We refinanced our house that month, so we had a month of mortgage payment.
Isn't that
And
the best month ever?
I know it's like it's no
I always
mortgage.
love refinancing.
I know. And then, no joke, within a couple weeks of this, I got an email from a woman.
Huh.
And this is the story that I've told on the national TV spots.
Mm-hmm.
An email from a woman who said, "Leslie, I've been praying about it and I want to share my story on your website." And her view at that point, we have like 1.8 million now followers on Facebook. At that
Wow.
point, we were like 20,000. We were pretty small.
What?
And she said she had found us and she'd been praying about it and she wanted to share her story. And it was,
Huh.
I was so honored to share it. It was actually a piece that her friend had from, died by suicide because of postpartum depression.
Oh,
And
wow.
she wanted us to
Mm-hmm.
share that piece.
Mm-hmm.
And that story just completely took off. And we received
Wow.
an email not long from after that said, "Thank you for sharing that story. It saved my life."
Wow.
And that was
That's
the
it.
moment. I mean, that was it. And I forgot to tell you in this whole thing, I was pregnant. We were pregnant
I
with
was
our
going to
third.
say you have a third one coming
Yes.
along. Keithan.
And so
Yes.
at that point, I really was like, I need to either get a real job or do
Yes.
something here. And the site just completely changed. And
Okay.
so I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, when you look back at it, it's like I know that God has given me the talents and the
Mm-hmm.
staff the talent and everything, but also He keeps leading us in this direction to keep doing it, which
Mm-hmm.
is just kind of
Yeah.
real to me. And I feel like
Yes.
He keeps doing that now. It's year 13 for
That's
this website,
crazy.
and
It's
now two
crazy.
books, and
I
it's
know.
all I don't know. It's so much bigger than us, and it's such a
It is
blessing.
so much bigger than you, but I just watched, it makes me think, my daughter and I just watched the Martha Stewart documentary.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And then my daughter read Ina Garden's book. I have not. But
Love her.
I think what I got from Martha Stewart's story, regardless of what you think about her, and I think it's what's kind of stirred me to know more about like the stories of women who are doing things outside of their comfort zone. But she was so prepared for each phase. I had forgotten that she was in finance, so that made, so your story reminds me of that. And then what I want so desperately for Heartlifters here to do is to lean in, because I'm leaning in, Leslie, to hear, okay, you walked around the kitchen weeks and weeks coming for a name. You really leaned in to whispers, and you have a very supportive husband. Not everyone has that. Um, but even outside of that, it there was something like, if can you help us really understand what you followed? Like, so much in our Christianese, we drop God led, God led. Okay, I know he does. I know he does. I know he does.
And it's so hard to like be like, but explain that, right?
What does it embody? Like, em, can you put yourself back in? Okay, I'm third pregnancy. You're at dinner with your husband, because I'm right here again. So I'm being selfish in a respect, but I also know there are many, many, many women out there going, do I or don't I? And how do you persevere? How do you embody, okay, this, I'm thinking of that script. This is the way, walk ye in it.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's another scripture that says there'll be a voice behind you
Mm-hmm.
saying, walk.
Same voice. You're like,
Yes. What is that? Like, how, if you
what?
can, put it into a, a, a term or a feeling that we can go, oh yeah, I know that feeling. Okay, that what a whisper is? Because right in the beginning of the book, you talk about this whisper that you heard. What is that? Like, impression,
My gut. I know. I don't.
gut,
Gut.
feeling,
It's a
gut.
gut thing. I think for me, and why it's so important, and thank you for asking the backstory, because why I think it's so
Mhm.
important for women to hear this is that it can look one way, but
Mhm.
behind the scenes, I need people to know that I feel myself getting teary. Oh, what are you
Mm.
doing to me today?
Yay!
I know who I am.
As you're
I
so
really do.
precious.
Even though I struggle like everyone, with, knowing really who we are and what value we bring. I know that I am loved by God. I know that I have a family who loves me,
Yeah.
and that if it all fails and goes away, which by the way, social media can go away like
In
that,
a minute.
I
Hmm.
will be okay.
Bit
And
fearful right now.
I know I'm just like I haven't teared up about that, but I feel like that's
It's
you have
gratitude.
to be grounded in that, and
Yeah.
you don't need you do
Mm.
not need money and
Mm.
accolades and all those things to know that. And that's what the gift of aging has taught me, is that I have that. I have that. And
Mhm.
so everything else from there is an added bonus. For me, then I feel like, okay, if God wants me to keep doing this, then I'm
Mhm.
going to keep figuring out a way to do it until it doesn't work anymore. And if it doesn't work anymore, maybe he wants me to go in a different direction and
Mhm.
lead in a different way.
Yeah.
But for now, for 13 years, we've been sharing these women's stories. And I tell these writers all the time, I'm like, you guys have no idea the
Mm.
impact you are making on women
No idea.
just by sharing your story.
Got
And
chills.
you'll never know because it's strangers who are reading it, but that
Hmm.
can literally change their life because they are reading it from you, from your mouth, reading your words and knowing that they're not alone. And that is very impactful and huge and something
As you
we
said, you were
do.
lonely. You were
Yes,
very lonely.
you know, and
Yep.
someone, through these interviews, someone had said, do you think you were creating her view also because you were so lonely? And I
Mm.
think
It's a good
I
question.
I think I was because
Hmm.
in TV you work and then you go to bed and then you work and I had such little kids and I was just this, I'm gonna make it happen. And
Yeah.
then I was missing out on all these friendships in the meantime. Yeah. So I do. I
Yes.
think did that answer that? Thanks for making me
It
cry.
No, I didn't want to make you cry, but I want you to acknowledge like it's so powerful. But when I saw you get emotional was when you mentioned that you're loved.
Yeah.
And that just takes me right back to daddy reading you a story every night. Well, I had an alcoholic father, so that didn't happen in my life. Not at all. And, whether your mom made him do it or not,
Right.
he could have said, I ain't doing that. It's not
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
And I just think a huge part of the work that we do here that I'm trying to do is in that whole world of attachment. And
Mhm.
so, we would say you have secure attachment because someone who has had that, downloading article after article and reading for you the effects of received grandmother's affection on adult grandchildren's health behaviors, affection exchange theory. I'm like, are there really these things? Because in the world of psychology and there's just theory after theory after theory. But you received affection.
Yep.
And I'm digging deep into it. It's hot up the press for me that I didn't know there was something called affection exchange theory. And when you have received that, of course, you're going to get secure attachment.
Right. Huh.
And the cue of knowing you have that is that it can all go away and you still know you're loved.
Yeah.
Me? Mm-mm. I do it so that I will feel loved because I have avoidant attachment, in my life.
Yeah.
So I've had to
Right.
work really
You're
hard,
doing it so you can feel that.
feel applause,
Yeah.
feel atta girl,
Mm.
but you're not doing it for that reason. And
Right.
and I love that. I think it's an important distinction. But you can also speak into us that at the core of anything that we want to do or need to do, we need to know foundationally that we are loved. And as I
Yep.
say here, I have value, I have worth, and I have dignity.
Yep.
Anything that comes to me from outside is a bonus because I have it from inside of me. So
Yeah.
her view from home, you just felt those words come from God and you're walking around the kitchen. And
Which sounds really hokey, by the way. Can we just talk about that?
it's not hokey though.
It
It's
does
not.
sound like it,
It's,
right? It just sounds like,
yeah,
but you can't, it is hard to, it's hard to explain that how you remember that moment.
right. But
So
you're
many
being in
times.
the presence of God. You
Yeah.
are availing yourself. You don't know any other way to do it. Like to
Yeah.
me, it's just, okay, well, I don't really know what you want to call this book or that book or
Right.
how this, but for anybody, it's a constant communion, constant dialogue. And the more you practice that,
Yeah.
the more you can identify the whispers.
Yeah.
How has, we're really going to get to the grandma part of this conversation, but how has collaboration with writing, like you're primarily editing the book in a sense because it's a collaboration.
Right.
How has that enriched your life? Because I'm an author who's, I've written my own. I am in a collaboration coming up, which is so fun.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious because I said to one of my daughters, I'm like, I don't know why I'm enjoying this so much. Like, it's almost like you're going backwards in a sense when you're a traditional author and you publish your own books, but now
Yeah.
I'm in a collaboration. Like,
Yeah.
that's traditionally where you would start.
Mhm.
But it has been life-giving. So I'm wondering what it has done for you as a woman.
It's first of all very humbling because
Mhm.
these women are incredible authors. And you read their words. I think a couple times when I'm doing the audiobook, I'm like, I gotta the guy who was doing it, recording it for me, I'm like, I don't know what this word means. Will you tell me? You know what I mean? Like there were several
Oh no, I
times
did it yesterday on a podcast. I'm like,
oh,
I don't know what a paragon is.
I'm like,
I'm not sure what that is.
See? And I'm like, oh, wow, these women are incredible. Now, and that doesn't take away from my own gift, but it does show you how many different gifts we all have. And
Hmm.
it's really an honor. It's just such an
Yeah.
honor to be able to be a part of their stories and to help them come together. And I lead each reader through of each section, which is really fun for me too. But
Hmm.
it's just cool.
It is. Well, this book
Humbling. Yeah.
is, I mean, number one, it's just so cool to be a grandma. I mean, people tell you, but it's how I felt when I became a mother because I didn't necessarily feel like I would want to be a mom. Like it was like I was a teacher. I loved my life. I loved teaching. I had lots of students. They were like my little first grade babies. And then when my first child was born, I was born. A mother was born, so they say. And I feel like the same as with the grandma. It's like I was good.
Really?
I wasn't one of those mom, like, oh my God, you have to have a baby.
Right.
I'm just doing my thing and having life and getting selfish again, basically. And then now I cannot be that anymore. Now I'm back to the holy interruptions of FaceTimes and
Uh-huh.
connections. One
Well,
of my
same.
daughters on a plane with her 5-month old going to California. So walking her through that, praying her through that, first time
Yep.
traveling alone with a baby. And so obviously this book was a natural progression from So God Made a Mom. What about So God Made a Grandma has perhaps surprised you in this
Yes.
in this?
Like this. Um, so God Made a Mother was again our book baby, and it's so beautiful. But
It
the
is.
grandma book is even more in depth. If
Mm-hmm.
that, like the
Mm-hmm.
stories are
Mm-hmm.
really rich. I mean, there are stories written by grandmothers, but there are stories written by women about their mothers or about their grandmothers. And some of the historical pieces, there's a piece in there about her grandmother living through the Holocaust.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
there's just some powerful
Mm-hmm.
pieces in there. And actually, I don't have the facts in front of me. I tried to find it. You know how you find something on Instagram and then you watch it and then you want to share it and then you can't find it again?
Oh
There,
yes.
there was a CBS video that I just saw today.
Hmm.
Something about 50% of Americans can't name a concentration camp. And then
Yes,
they,
it's because we
have you
just had
seen that?
the massive
Yes.
Holocaust
And
celebration. It was on CBS Sunday morning. I guarantee
did
you
you see?
that it was
Okay,
just
thank you.
on. Yes.
And that like in 5 to 7 years, all of these
Hmm.
Holocaust
They'll be
survivors will be
gone.
gone.
Hmm.
And they were talking about jeepers. I'm getting kind of teary with this
I
too. They were
know
talking
it was
about the importance,
impactful,
right?
impactful. They put the
They were
pictures up on in a big
yes.
screen. Yeah, it's
I'm
CBS
so
Sunday
glad you're
morning.
here.
I'll put the link in the show
Yes.
notes. Yep.
So they were talking about how important it is to continue sharing those stories. And I
Hmm.
thought, oh my gosh, we have an author in our book
You
who
do.
shared her grandmother's story of the Holocaust. And I thought, that is that is exactly what it can be big, it can be little, but those are the
Hmm.
things that we have to keep doing so we can
Yeah.
teach future generations. And then we
Hmm.
also notice what I have recognized is that we are very much the same, even though we're going through very different times. They'll
Hmm.
talk about their
Hmm.
grandmothers and what it was like raising kids in the 40s and 50s. And I'm like, oh no, they had the same mental health
It is.
struggles. I think they
Hmm.
just didn't know how to describe it exactly, but we were all going through the same things, even though time has changed us all. So I just think by writing those stories and sharing that information, we all become better, well-rounded people and we
We
learn
do.
and continue to grow and the importance
Yeah.
of that.
For sure, it's oral
Yeah,
storytelling. We have to
yeah,
pass these
we
stories
do.
down, and you are pretty privileged. You have created this incredible platform and space for women to tell their stories. It's enviable. I love it. I'm like, I would love to. I have decades of women's stories inside of my heart as a counselor, and it's like, it's just such an honor. I just call it the vault. It's the vault, and I think that you're absolutely right in it because we don't live intergenerationally anymore either. Like, your grandparents lived and moved to Nebraska. You grew up with around them. You grew up so you had such a distinct honor in that. And like you said, didn't really think it was cool until much later in life.
Yep. Yep.
But intergenerationally, I'm thinking of this 95-year-old woman I was in a Bible study with, Cornelia, and I think of her all the time. I just think of, she has since passed, but I mean, this woman was just incredible. And she would sit there with us young women and go, well, I dealt with the same thing. I think when you find that symbiotic, like, oh, I get it. Yeah, I get it. And hearing a story of a Holocaust survivor can then infuse courage and bravery, because certainly that woman did not expect for history to turn and for her to
Right.
have to go live. Nobody knows. We don't
Right.
know.
Right.
We're in a sobering time.
Yep.
And so we do not know. And so by reading these stories, like, and so God made a mother, so God made a grandma, it's like that ivy of faith and courage, bravery. I want to read the chapter titles because I wonder how hard it was for you to choose, condense. So God
Very
made a
hard.
grandma gentle. I love that that's first. So God made a grandma wise. So
Mhm.
God made a grandma redeemed. So God made a grandma creative. So God made a grandma faithful. God made a grandma graceful. God made a grandma generous. God made a grandma resilient. God made a grandma devoted, and God made a grandma to leave a legacy.
Mhm.
How hard was it to choose? Did you obtain the stories and then fashion the?
So when we opened the submissions for our writers, we kind of told them the vibes that we were going for. Kind of starts with the pieces that I write and how it leads
Uh-huh.
through because I introduce each section. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how we get a vibe. What we wanted in here is that we wanted to make sure people know that grandmas aren't perfect either. And a
Yeah.
lot of us didn't grow up with that.
Mm-mm.
And in fact, there's a piece, what I have learned is that my mother and her mother-in-law they didn't really get along
The
so well. And
vibe.
stories that I thought, you know what, it's not my place to share their stories. But I
No.
did mention a few things in there because I do want people to know that they're not alone in the fact that maybe they didn't have
Mm-hmm.
amazing grandparents, but
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of them then will share how they want to then raise their children and help with their grandchildren in the future. So
Mm-hmm.
it was hard
I would
to come
I
up
would
with
think
that
so. To
and
knock it
just to
down
make
to
sure.
just those attributes.
Right,
Yes.
right. And to come up with so many, yeah, and the stories all fit within those, yeah, categories.
It's phenomenal. But
I'm
I
glad you
think
brought that up. We haven't done that. We did that a year and a half ago or whatever.
what is most important for me, and why there were many reasons I wanted you here. But what I have found, not having been raised in a home that was, where I received secure attachment. My husband wasn't either. Both of our fathers were alcoholics, both very trauma filled in different ways. And so then we were committed to Christ when we got married. I was 20 when I became a real follower. I was Catholic up until that point. But I think we were so committed. We had such a vision to have what you would say a first generation Christ following faith. Not that I didn't grow up with my mother's Catholic faith. I did. I received quite a bit from it. But, really embracing the gospel. And then you become a grandparent. And adult children, it's a whole different ball game. And we didn't do things perfectly because we were conflict adverse. And so we didn't teach our children. We didn't handle conflict. So what I'm saying in all of this is I think there does need to be a manual. And you're giving us stories to teach those of us who have not. I didn't grow up around grandparents. I mean, it's another story. But when you have a dislocated family, well, then I had a dislocated extended family, and I didn't really grow up around cousins. We didn't grow up close. It wasn't important to my mother, and I saw my maternal grandmother twice, once at 12, and then once when I had my firstborn, two times.
Yeah.
And then my paternal grandmother, we all have a story. And I think what I'm yearning for is now I want to be the best grandmother.
Right, right.
But
But then
I
you don't
don't
want to put too much pressure on yourself
know.
either, because you already are just by showing up,
I
just by
know.
being there.
And that's
I
what you teach us a lot about. Like,
I love this. This is, and I don't think my husband would mind me telling this story. Um,
very patient man named
his
Kyle.
his parents divorced when he was 12.
Okay.
And he will tell you now, because he is, I mean, truly, he's such a good man.
Oh, he sounds it.
And he helped his mom. He's really good at, like, he does laundry, and we all do the cooking together and all that, because he always
Wow.
had his mom when she left. But he
Sure.
will talk now about the fact that he saw his grandma and grandpa, his mom's parents, and they were just loving, and how they cared for each other. And then his uncle and his wife, how they were together and how they took care of each other. And he recognized that. And he will say
Ooh.
now at 43 that that really made a big impact on his life. His uncle was best man in our wedding. So I find
Wow.
it so interesting. And that's not to take away from his mom and dad. They're both wonderful, fabulous
Of
people.
course not.
But
No. But it's a
it's
jarring thing at 12 years old.
right. And it's so interesting to me now that you brought all that up. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
this is fascinating of how people have impacts on us. And
Yes.
it doesn't have to be a grandparent or a mother. It can be someone who is
Hmm.
a mentor. There's a story in our book of how a woman had a mentor from her church who would
Yes.
have been her grandmother's age help her.
Yes.
And that's the cool thing, that we can do
Hmm.
that even when my kids are grown and gone.
Hmm.
We can still be mentors to people in
Oh
our
my
community.
gosh, I've been a spiritual mother to so many,
Oh,
I mean,
will you be a spiritual mother for me, please?
yes, I will. I would love that. It would be an honor. No, but I know that I have, and it's like I don't know how I have this innate, it's like you said, it's just a calling to mother. And that's, the project I'm working on. It is about mothering. You don't have to have birthed a child, it's just about that nature and nurture of mothering. And I mean, yeah, I could go
You
on and
have
on.
to, right? Especially for the people who don't have
Yeah.
that growing up. So that's why teachers can be so impactful, and coaches. I
Oh,
mean, so
dance
many.
teachers,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so I love that your husband, and I love that you're calling me back to the fact that I cannot be perfect. It's not important that I be perfect, but it's important what I feel, and tell me if you think this is an accurate statement, to be continually developing to
Yeah.
become as wholehearted and as emotionally and mentally and relationally and spiritually healthy as I can be,
Yeah.
because I have these little faces now, and it's just, I don't know. When you see your kids have kids, it's
It's
just
a whole thing.
the whole thing is just, how did I get so old so soon, as Dr. Seuss says. And it's just like,
So you're
okay,
telling me that doesn't change? Because it is just in the last few years, I'm like, what happened?
43.
What happened to the last decade? And then you
You've
throw
been
COVID
building a
in for
platform and
all of
raising
us.
children.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I think, well, I love to be enamored by life. So I think it's also a part of that. I'll never want to stop learning and stop growing. But I think the power of, I do hope that So God Made a Grandma will be a gift women give to everybody in their life, every woman. The research is really heavy on grandmothers.
Huh.
It's
Interesting.
very heavy because it says that grandmothers, and this has kind of proven my hypothesis for this book that I'm working on, or even the calling I feel to call for women to rise up and take their maternal presence into their spheres, because men will tend to talk about their old jobs, their stories of their old like they're not there to nurture.
Right.
They're not really there to, oh honey, tell me.
Yep.
It's not as strong of a empathic cognitive empathy, they call it. And that's where I'm just beginning to like go, oh, that's why the grandmother is more important. Because sometimes, like my grandkids, only one of them can really talk. The next one's coming into talking, but she'll be like, Nona, but won't mention Grandpa Rob. Yet she loves him and thinks he's amazing.
Yeah.
But I'm just have my own little pod of research going on. Like, why do they do that? It's just something that a woman brings to the relationship that I'm grateful that you are strengthening women, because that's what we need to do.
Thank you for this. I feel like I'm learning. So I'm like, oh, I am. So when the internet says schmoggle, I can be like,
schmoggle. You're like, get rid of the schmoggle, baby. I am doing important work. I mean, you are embodying, tend to not like to use the word empowering, but helping women embody their value, their worth, their dignity. And as you said, I know I'm loved. I just want to close with that, because goodness, Leslie, if I tell you, I've just had so many clients and women at speaking events for decades and decades who just weep because they feel invisible, they feel unseen, they're not heard, and it is time. And you have built a table, a very, 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 very big table for women to pull up a chair and just share their story and feel loved. And watch out. Like, I'm saying watch out when women really grasp that truth, that they're loved. Because I just think a remarkable revolution will happen in all the right ways. So
it gave me chills.
You give me chills. So thank you. You will hopefully have many Heartlifters joining Her View from home and contributing their stories to whatever you have projects for them to do. But thank you, Leslie. May you continue to find great meaning and purpose in every sphere of your life.
Thank you. This was such an honor.
Thanks for listening today, Heartlifter. Be sure to hop over to Substack at Heartlift Central, Instagram at Janell Reardon. And if you would be so kind, make a tax-deductible donation to keep this podcast ad-free and spreading its influence all over the world. You can make that donation on my website, janellreardon.com, Heartlift International. Everything you need to know is right there. Remember, Heartlifter, you have value, worth, and dignity.